3 spine-chilling true stories of sinister stalkers, an exposed journey into the haunted unknown. In the quiet town of Maplewood, darkness often whispered beneath the surface. For Sarah, a night shift nurse and single mother, the tranquility of this small community was sleepwalking into dread. Everything seemed perfect. Neighbors waved, kids rode bikes, and summer nights unfolded like pages from a fairy tale. But within a heartbeat, that illusion shattered as Sarah started feeling the shadow of a sinister secret creeping closer. One night, after a grueling shift at the hospital, she thought she caught Mr. Thompson's eyes lingering too long as he trimmed his hedge. The retired police officer next door had always been helpful, offering to watch her 2 young children, Jake and Mia, while she worked. But what first felt like a protective gesture morphed into something macabre. Suddenly, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was under surveillance. Mr. Thompson's easy smile now twisted into something chilling. Her heart raced as she returned home to find her car's door ajar. Panic gripped her. Did she forget to lock it? Or was it him? Those late-night fogs became more disturbing, shadows lurking like uninvited guests in her peripheral vision. When she found that note on her porch, saying, "You deserve better," dread settled in her bones. Paranoia twisted her gut. Could it be a threat or some hallway whisper meant to shake her resolve? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days dragged on, each moment feeling heavier than the last. The town's charm stifled her, and the trust she once had with her neighbors turned brittle. And then, the unthinkable happened. A child went missing. Someone from the neighborhood. Panic enveloped her like an icy blanket as frantic calls to local authorities were dismissed with laughs, like shadows blocking the sunlight. Sarah was alone in her terror, and it was paralyzing. One night, her dread stepped into the light. Arriving home, she saw a figure lurking in the playground, where her children played carefree each afternoon. The flickering streetlights painted a menacing scene. Cold sweat dripped down her spine as she squinted to see through the darkness. Only the muffled sounds of laughter echoed in her memory, now replaced by a sinister silence. It was Mr. Thompson. The man who had once seemed innocuous now appeared consumed by a darkness that mirrored her own fear. With her heart hammering in her chest, Sarah knew she had to confront him. Twisted truths began to weave vividly in her mind, the vague warnings whispered among parents, stories of other children who had vanished, secrets buried beneath Maplewood's charming veneer. But who could she trust? The community that wrapped around her felt more like a noose, tightening with every breath. The night descended, thick with foreboding, as she prepared to face the man behind the mask. Would she emerge from the shadows, or would he prove once again that danger wears a familiar face? The air felt heavy as Sarah approached Mr. Thompson, each step resonating with a mix of fear and determination. Her mind raced with the image of her children, Jake's bright laughter, Mia's innocent chatter. What if they weren't safe? What if this man, with his disarming smile, hid something profoundly evil beneath that calm exterior? "Mr. Thompson," she called out, her voice trembling but firm, the streetlights casting a stark glow on his face. He turned slowly, his eyes widening slightly, almost surprised at her presence. "Sarah," he replied, a casual tone creeping into his voice. "What brings you out here at this hour?" The chill in the air deepened as she locked her gaze with him. "I saw you watching the playground. Is there something you want to say?" He chuckled, a sound that sent a shiver down her spine. "Just keeping an eye on the children. A responsible neighbor looks out for one another, doesn't he?" "Too responsible," she shot back, her gut telling her to run but her feet staying rooted to the ground. "Doesn't he? It feels strange to be out here lurking at night." His smile faded, replaced by an unsettling seriousness. "You think I'm a monster, don't you? You think I'm dangerous?" Sarah's heart raced. What do you want from me? Why are you watching me? He stepped closer, the shadows swallowing his form as she instinctively took a step back. It's not what I want from you, Sarah. It's what I want to protect you from. The words wrapped around her like chains. Protect me? Or control me? She spat back through gritted teeth. People need to understand, he said, a strange intensity filling his voice, the world isn't as safe as it seems. You've noticed things, haven't you? Strange occurrences? Missing children don't just vanish without a reason. The blood drained from Sarah's face. What do you mean? He leaned in, the air thickening with an unspeakable tension. There are things lurking in this town, Sarah. You're oblivious to the dangers around you. If you want to keep your children safe, you need to listen to me. Disbelief roiled in her stomach, but so did fear. What if he wasn't lying? What if he was revealing the very truths that lay under the town's picturesque surface? Suddenly, a rustling behind the trees shattered the moment. Panic seized her as heavy footsteps echoed in the silence. Mr. Thompson's eyes narrowed, a predatory glimmer igniting within. They are here, he whispered, his voice low and urgent. Run, Sarah. In that split second, she felt the world tilt, fear rising as adrenaline surged through her veins. She turned and sprinted toward her house, heart pounding in erratic rhythm, aware that the unseen threats were closing in, shadows swirling around her. As she bolted up the porch steps, she glanced back. Mr. Thompson stood there, an ominous figure cloaked in darkness, his intentions unclear. The fleeting thought of what lay in her home, the safety of her children, fueled her flight. Reaching the door, her hands shook as she fumbled for the lock. But what if she was bringing the danger in with her? What vanished from her sights at that moment? The sudden clang of metal rang out, a sharp sound piercing the night. Someone was behind her, and as she felt a cold breath on her neck, panic enveloped her. Sarah. A voice called, familiar yet uninviting. It was Jake, but he sounded off, as if he carried a dark weight with him. Without thinking, she turned to look, dread gripping her heart with icy fingers. But instead of relief, she froze, eyes widening in horror. What stood before her was both her son and something altogether different. The night shifted, swallowing her scream as darkness crept closer, wrapping its malevolent fingers around Maplewood. What had her instincts failed to sense? What had now awakened in her perfect town? The chilling reality struck Sarah like a bolt of lightning. Jake's image twisted in front of her, his little body so deceptively familiar yet overshadowed by an indescribable darkness. His eyes glistened with an unnatural sheen, reflecting the dim porch light like shards of glass, and his grin was too wide, too wrong. "Mom," he said, and there was something off about the way he spoke, as though the sound was not entirely his own. A chill draped over her, freezing her in place. Suddenly, the door creaked open beside her, revealing a narrow shadow that clung to the frame. It was Mia, her small form hardly visible among the darkness of the night. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Her innocence stood stark against the looming dread. "Stay inside!" Sarah yelled, her voice shot through with panic, but it was drowned out by the ominous rustling moving through the shadows beyond. They were out there, even now, whatever it was that had sent Mr. Thompson into alarm. "Jake?" Mia's voice trembled, reaching for her brother, as fear flooded the air around them. He moved closer, and Sarah could almost smell the change in him. It clung to him like an oily residue. She caught the hint of something foul, something that tore at her sense of safety. "Mom, let us go." "We want to play," Jake said, his voice soft, enticing, yet edged with a sinister undertone. It was a call to something that didn't belong. "Get back," she hissed, stepping protectively in front of Mia. "You're not going anywhere." "Why not?" His smile widened, revealing too many teeth as a darkness seemed to pour from him, crawling along the ground like a shadow come to life. "Mommy, don't you want us to have fun? We could go play with the others." "Others?" Sarah echoed, her heart hammering against her ribs. What others? With a flicker, Jake glanced back into the depths of the night, his posture revealing a strange anticipation. Behind him, shadows billowed, forming shapes among the trees, watching, waiting. Darkness seeped toward her home, creeping under the porch and around her feet in a viscous swirl. Mom, they're here. They want to meet you, Jake said, his tone unusually calm, a dreadful contrast to the storm swirling within her. Run, Sarah, run. The voice of Mr. Thompson echoed from the shadows, desperate and urgent. But her children, her precious children, stood like pillars of stone, entranced by something she could not see. The ground trembled as a whispering wind encircled them, taunting and beckoning. Dread gripped her, twisting her insides until the weight was unbearable. She stepped closer, their faces illuminated briefly by the porch light, but even that light seemed dimmer against the mounting night. Mommy, come, Jake beckoned again, twisting his body as he took a step forward, something feral glowing behind his expression. No. She shot out her hand, fingers trembling, thoughts racing. What horrific power had taken hold of her son? Mia shrank back, seeking refuge against the wall, wide eyes filled with fear, yet she didn't seem aware of the threat looming near her brother. I want to go inside, Mom. And that was it, the thread holding her together snapped. With all her might, she turned and pushed Mia back inside the house, slamming the door shut behind her. The clatter echoed, but the noise couldn't mask the suffocating dread pooling in her chest, but before she could lock the door, the handle rattled violently. Open up, Mom. We want to come in. Jake's voice twisted with urgency. Let us in. With teeming heartbeats, Sarah pressed her back against the door, despair flooding through her. What could she do? The stakes felt impossibly high. The atmosphere thickened, vibrating with threats she couldn't name as shadows danced beyond the thin wall. It felt alive, teetering on the edge of madness, then, sharp, piercing laughter cut through the night, both childlike and monstrous. It echoed hauntingly, reverberating against her skull. It flipped her thoughts, unraveling the last shreds of her sanity. What twisted force was challenging her? What did they want? In that moment of breathless fear, the night shifted. Again, becoming darker, colder. Thoughts of her children gnawed at her. Were they truly lost to her? As the door rattled relentlessly, Sarah's breath hitched. Then, a low rumble unfolded like thunder across the darkened sky. From the shadows came murmurs, footfalls, and the distinct sound of laughter that was too cruel, too wicked for children. Would she realize in time what horrors lurked in the night, before they claimed everything she loved? With a heart-thundering resolve, Sarah peered through the peephole, praying against hope, holding her breath as she braced for a sight that would change everything. What would she find beyond this fragile door? The darkness outside pulsed with a malevolent energy, and Sarah's heart raced as she pressed her eye to the peephole. All she could see was a thick mass of shadows shifting, writhing in the cool night air. She blinked, desperate to clear her vision, but the scene remained obscured, a dark whirlpool pulling at her sanity. Mom! Jake's voice quivered, now filled with desperation, almost pleading. Let us in, it's cold out here. Each syllable dripped with an unsettling sweetness that sent a jolt of ice down Sarah's spine. Her fingers trembled over the lock, unsure whether to keep it engaged or to break the barrier separating her from the abyss. Mom, please. Mia's tiny voice joined in, tinged with panic. I want my brother. I want to play. A wave of nausea rolled through Sarah. Two of her children were in front of her. She could see their shapes in the dim light, but were they truly her children? Her instincts screamed to protect, but another part of her quivered before their intoxicating pleas. Stay back. You're not Jake. You can't be. She shouted, her voice cracking, unsure if she was pleading with them or with herself, but Jake chuckled, the sound reverberating unnaturally, echoing behind the door as if joined by a chorus of sinister laughter. Oh, Mommy, that's not true. We just want you to join us. The night outside thickened, heavy and smothering. Shadows swirled like a fog, wrapping around the porch in sinuous tendrils. Sarah could feel it, the weight of it pressing down, suffocating. Suddenly, a loud bang resonated against the door, the handle rattling violently. "Let us in." Jake's voice erupted with irritation now. It was a voice that tugged at primal fears. Something had shifted within him, something no longer human. "Please don't." Mia cried, the innocence in her voice cracking. She too must have sensed the change. The doorknob jiggled, rattling under the force of a hidden power. Sarah reared back instinctively, terror flaring through her veins. Why was she still here, paralyzed by fear? "Mommy, they're hungry." Jake's words dripped with malice. "If you don't let us in, they'll take us away." A chill crept across Sarah's skin as shadows reared up, clawing through the porch light and pressing against her door like pressing hands of 100 unseen watchers. Each heartbeat felt like an eternity. Her mind raced. What would it mean if she opened the door? There had to be a choice, a way to save Mia and what was left of Jake. Then she heard it, a whisper in the wind, almost like a child's giggle mingled with something far darker. Suddenly, as if in response, a low growl erupted from behind the door, a sound that vibrated through her very bones. It was a sound not meant for human ears. Sarah's breath quickened, her fear morphing into resolve. With a sudden surge, she stepped away from the door, shifting toward the window. She needed to see. She needed to know what was out there, behind the veil of darkness and her children's twisting forms. As she drew closer, the silhouettes loomed larger. One whispered something she couldn't quite hear. It melted into the night, beckoning her ears, a haunting invitation that filled her with dread. Just as she plunged into the darkness outside, a relentless knock echoed against the door again, accompanied by a cacophony of voices urging her to open it. "Mommy! Don't leave!" Mia cried, panic rising, but Sarah froze, mouth dry. The shadows were crawling up the window, moving fast, but now she could see them clearly. They were no longer mere shapes, they took on forms, malevolent figures glistening with darkness. What had they done to her children? Gripping the window frame, Sarah's heart thundered, and she gasped, realizing she was barely holding on. The line between reality and something sinister had thinned. Then, in an instance of horror, her eye caught a flash of dull light, and she saw them, creatures twisted, their shapes mimicking her children, eyes burning with otherworldly hunger. They were hungry. Nausea hit her as her breath caught in her throat, choking her resolve. Were they pulling her in? Suddenly, the urge to tether to reality surged through her. But even as that flicker of hope ignited, she felt something behind her, a presence cold and voracious, eager to devour. What had she summoned, and could she escape it? As the figure approached, Sarah's heart sank deeper into darkness. For a heartbeat, her eyes darted to the door. Would she break free from this terror, or would she succumb to the shadows? Behind her, chaos stirred. The children's wails entwined with laughter, drowning her senses in madness. With hands trembling in terror, she turned one last time. Whatever was outside, it was ready to take everything. Would she withstand the pull of the void, or would it claim her and them forever? Sarah's heart pounded like a war drum, each beat screaming a warning. She could feel the shadows closing in, the shapes outside her window surging, hungry and desperate. They twisted, writhing, their eyes glinting in the flickering light, an eternal abyss reflected in their depths. Desperation clawed at her insides as she turned, panic tightening its grip. "Jake? Mia?" Her voice trembled involuntarily, laced with a mix of hope and dread. Were these lost souls the twisted reflections her children, or mere monsters in the guise of innocence? From behind her came a sound that froze her blood, a soft, almost affectionate sigh. It brushed against her ear like a forgotten love, but the chill that followed was pure malice. Sarah turned slowly, dread sinking deeper, and found herself face to face with a figure formed from darkness, larger than any shadow had a right to be. It loomed closer, air thick with the stench of decay. Let them in, it crooned, voice silken and sinister, slipping through her defenses. They're hungry. They are just lost like you. She staggered back, clinging to the window for support. A single thought screamed at her, they weren't lost, they were taken. Get away from me. She shouted, voice cracked but fierce. The figure before her faltered slightly, a swirl of darkness held back by the simple strength of her defiance. But behind her, the shadows moved, their intent palpable. Mommy, please. The cries felt like knives, Jake's voice splintered by desperation. Let us in. Mia's plea was now a sob, raw and heart-wrenching. Open the door, Sarah, the figure urged, its voice oily, each word oozing with hunger. They belong to us now. The images before her flickered as a chilling laugh erupted into a cacophony of malice. It resonated within her, merging with her own fear until she didn't know where she ended and the darkness began. Memory teased her flashes of laughter, warmth, and light, but those joyful images were slipping away, washed over by the block of cold guilt and despair that enveloped her like a shroud. Then, in a moment of grotesque clarity, she understood, the creatures imitating her children weren't just seeking entry. They were demanding her compliance, her very soul. To let them in was to relinquish all hope, to condemn the last remnants of her children forever. No, she breathed, a surge of rebellion igniting. I will not. But the figure reached out with claw-like fingers, grazing her arm like ice. A deep, gurgling sound filled the air, whispering promises of peace, of reunion, what she craved more than anything. Her stomach twisted painfully, thoughts swirling in a vortex of despair. Behind her, the door banged again, but this time Mia's voice was laced with something more urgent, more primal. Mom! They're wrong. It's not us. Another laugh erupted from the figure, the sound jagged and triumphant. Why would you believe them, Sarah? They've already crossed over. Let them come home. As it drew closer, darkness pressed at the corners of her vision, coaxing her toward an edge of oblivion. Desperation clawed at her, leaving her breathless. Mommy! Please! Mia's screams twisted sharply, shifting into an unearthly pitch, resonating with truths she couldn't face. In a sudden burst of clarity, memories surged: a birthday party, warm summer evenings, the laughter of her real children. They were fading, and if she let this darkness in, they would slip away forever. I want to do it. She felt alive, strength in her defiance. You can't have them. A snarl erupted from the figure, a low, reverberating threat. You will regret this, they are ours. The shadows lunged, baying for her surrender, hungry for her soul. But through the chaos, a flicker of light cut through, a distant memory, a whisper of love sparked her courage. The shadows recoiled, the figure faltered. Sarah clutched onto that light, feeling its warmth ignite her being strong against the cold darkness that threatened to devour her whole. With a howl of rage that echoed into the night, the creature surged forward only to be met by a powerful wave of fervor. Sarah slammed the window shut, locking her fear inside while fighting against the storm rattling against her reality. But outside, tremors rolled through the floorboards, shadows pounding on the door. Would her courage be enough? The walls quaked, and the voices rose in a chilling chorus. Let us in. Let us in. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as her resolve faltered. Could she really hold on? And then came the realization, the creeping question, what now awaited her and her children in the deeps of the darkness? As she turned, knowing the fight was far from over, the shadows outside grew more insistent, more alive. What was the true price of their liberation? Would she have the strength to face the tormenting truth? The air around her felt electric, charged with dread and uncertainty. Each thump against the door reminded her that the battle had only begun. Shadows wove in and out of the corners of her vision, twisting and curling, urging her to give in, to succumb to the nightmarish call of the dark. Sarah paced the room, desperate to find a shred of clarity. Her heart thundered with the weight of her decision. She glanced around, searching for an escape, a way to protect what remained of her family. Remembering just how close she had been to losing Jake and Mia, she felt a flood of panic sweep over her. "Mom?" came Mia's voice, fragile and thin. "Please. You don't understand." The shadows writhed like an angry sea now, each wave crashing against her resolve. "You've got to let us in, Mommy. We can help you." Jake chimed in, his voice rising above the clamoring. "We're not just shadows." Sarah held her breath. It was a trick, a manipulation. Yet, the ache in her chest whispered of things she couldn't let go of. They were so close. The figure loomed in the corner, its form shifting, drawing nearer. "You could stop the pain, Sarah. Just open the door. Stop it." She shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. "You're not them. You're not my children." The thing lunged, wrapping long, knotted fingers around her wrist. Freezing cold shot through her veins as it spoke a voice too familiar, echoing memories she was not ready to confront. "You're hurting them. Imagine it, Sarah, united again, no more suffering. Just trust us." "Trust?" she screamed, shaking off the grip. "Trust is what got me here." The flickering candles on the table sputtered, casting long shadows that danced across walls tainted with her children's beloved drawings. The walls began to slow their quaking, but the voices outside grew shriller, more frantic. "Let us in. Let us in." Doubt crept back in. What if they really were trapped? What if a part of her decision could save them? Screams clawed through her mind, gnawing at her foundation. Just then, the eerie dynamism of the shadows shifted. An inflection, almost like hesitation, coursed through the dark figure. "You're stronger than this. But, are you stronger than the pain of losing them?" In that moment, she saw flickers of her children's faces, joyful and unafraid, their laughter ringing in her ears like a haunting lull. A flicker of hope broke through her terror. There, amidst the chaos, she felt something, an ember igniting in her chest, a spark of the love she felt for them, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. "No!" She shook her head violently, grasping the swell of warmth that filled her. "I will remember who they are." And as her voice rose, she felt the shadows draw back, flinching away from her determination. The laughter transformed into guttural roars of anger, the once innocent breath of her children now twisted, corrupted by the darkness. Then, a sudden silence fell. The vibration subsided, but the air was still thick with the tension of unfulfilled hunger. Peering out through the blinds, she could see them gathering, a twisted mass of darkness pooling, waiting. The figure stood at the forefront, a silhouette defined by malice. "You think you can escape? This is only the beginning. We will feast on your memories." In her gut, a gnawing fear arose. They would not stop. Their insatiable hunger for her soul and the truth she held was only escalating. With every heartbeat, she could feel the truth tightening around her throat, wrapping like a noose. "Sarah." Another voice, one more familiar, cut through, so soft yet haunting. "Mommy, we're still here." Please, tears sprang to her eyes. But she couldn't give in. Not now. She gripped the table, heart racing, blood pounding in her ears. With a sudden resolve, she turned away from the window, breathing deeply. "No more," she shouted. "If you want to take me, then you'll have to fight for it." Outside, a new wave of fury erupted in the shadows. Would Sarah's declaration of strength be enough to shield her from the horrors that awaited? What would be left of her if she lost this battle? As the shadows pressed forward in an onslaught of darkness, she prepared for the reckoning. But in that uncertainty loomed a chilling question: would she discover the terrible cost of love or relinquish everything she held dear in a moment of weakness? The walls trembled, vibrating with a menacing growl that echoed from the shadows. Sarah squared her shoulders, adrenaline coursing through her. She could almost hear the taunting whispers swirling around her, 100 dark mouths ready to consume her resolve. Think carefully, Sarah. You're fighting a battle you cannot win, the tall, dark figure sneered, its voice a raspy hiss that sent shivers down her spine. It took a step closer, and with it, a wave of icy dread washed over her. The children you remember are gone. We are all that remains. No. She gasped, heart racing. You're a lie. You're not them. The shadows coiled around her feet like snakes, trapping her in place. Panic clawed at her throat, her mind racing through the memories, the soft laughter, the gentle touches, the way they would cradle her on long nights. I will not abandon them. An eerie silence followed, the shadows around her still, as if they, too, were curious about her declaration. Moments ticked by, filled with the heavy weight of uncertainty. Sarah's breath quickened, the frantic beats of her heart pounding louder than the silence. Will you stand up for non-existent children? The bruised voice mocked her from every corner. Or will you finally face the truth? You'd be happier if you released yourself from this burden. The darkness surged forward once more, the figures morphing into grotesque forms resembling fleeting images of her children. She saw their faces glistening with malignancy, eyes hollow and void of spirit. Everything inside her screamed for self-preservation, yet that tiny ember flared in defiance. Get away from me! She yelled, and a surge of warmth enveloped her, pushing back against the encroaching shadows. The table rattled, the candles flared up, illuminating the chaos as it engulfed her in an ethereal light, but the shadows recoiled only briefly, reforming into a swirling mass of rage. This is your last chance, Sarah. Open the door and release your pain. Never. She cried, fists clenched, shaking with both fear and fury. The energy from within sparked like an electrical current, filling the air with an electric hum. Then, suddenly, the figures halted. The silence crawled in, thick enough to choke. They shivered like leaves in a storm, unsure. Mommy, please. Mia's voice echoed again, dripping with sorrow but twisted with something dark. Stop fighting us. Grief surged through Sarah like a tidal wave, she fought to stay anchored. I'd rather feel pain than lose you. The shadows grew still, and for an instant, she could feel the pull of something that resembled hope. But it quickly snapped back like a rubber band, and with it came a cacophony of mournful wails. The specters flickered with rage and despair, weaving together to form a monstrous visage. Your love only fuels us. The amalgamation bellowed, distorting the air with its rancor. With a final surge, Sarah lunged for the table, gripping the knife lying there, its blade glistened like a beacon against the dark. I want to let you take me. Foolish. The voice screeched, and as if triggered by her defiance, the shadows lunged forward, plunging into her psyche. Cold fingers gripped her mind, dragging her down, whispering words meant to unravel her very soul. But instead of succumbing, Sarah pushed back harder. With every ounce of strength she had, she fought to wield the knife, a lifeline in a turbulent storm. The shadows shrieked, an ear-splitting sound that shattered the stillness, reverberating in her bones. You cannot kill what isn't alive. Just watch me. She roared, feeling the weight of her memories and love channeling through her. Just as the darkness surged around her, another frantic knock echoed at the door, a resounding strike that rattled the entire house. It felt like a lifeline thrown into the stormy sea, eclipsing the cacophony of anguish. Mom! Mom! It's us! Please! Who's there? She shouted back, heart racing with a blend of hope and terror. The shadows paused, wavering, their grip faltering. Mom! You have to let us in. They chorused, but a deeper, more sinister voice murmured beneath their pleas. Make her listen. This may be your last chance. As Sarah stood at the precipice, caught between love and the dark maw of desperation, she faced a chilling choice. Would she trust the voice outside or fight until her last breath against these monstrous echoes? And in the flickering candlelight, amidst the thrumming heart of the storm, she realized this battle had only just begun. The air shifted, thick with tension. The knocking grew frantic, a desperate plea mingling with the ghostly whispers that circled Sarah's mind. Her heart thudded in her chest, a drumbeat of panic. "Mom! Let us in." Gripped by uncertainty, she felt the knife's steel bite into her palm, grounding her in frantic resolve. Fragments of warmth radiated from the door, a flicker of familiarity dulled by the terror lurking in the shadows. "Trust them, Sarah," the dark figure crooned, stepping closer, moving like mist. "Trust the voices. They're not what you think. The children you love are gone, they have become a part of us." "No. No, no." She clenched her jaw, the tremors of fear walloping through her. "You're lying." The shadows around her pulsed like a heartbeat, mocking her defiance. "Then why do they sound so scared? They are suffering, just like you. Let them in. End their pain." The voices outside grew louder, melding into one terrifying symphony. "Mom, please." The fabric of her memory stretched painfully thin, threatening to snap. In the dim light, she saw them fleeting, distorted figures of her beloved children Mia and Ben. Their faces flickered in and out, flashing with sorrow and yearning. With every image, another piece of her resolve crumbled. "Their cries haunt you, Sarah. They are the echoes of the life you could have. Let them in. Save them. Shut up." Her scream ricocheted against the walls, shaking dust from the ceiling. The darkness swirled, growing more aggressive, clawing toward her, like a beast with an insatiable hunger. She could feel it tightening, pinching her, threatening to drown her in despair, but then came a sudden warmth, a surge that filled the room, a glowing image of Mia's smile, radiant and pure. "Mom, please. We need you." "No. I won't betray you." The tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks, hot and frantic. The knife trembled in her grip, caught between the beckoning light and the devouring darkness. "Then you choose this hollow existence," the figure mocked, its voice hissing with malicious glee. "You will lose us both. We will give you what you crave, your children back. Just let us in, Sarah." The shadows twisted and shrieked, drowning her memories in waves of anguish. "Trust the darkness, Sarah, they are lost forever. Then I'll fight for them." She thrust the knife forward, a defiant movement that made the air crackle. The shadows recoiled, flickering with confusion, just for a moment. "You can't have my love, my memories. They're mine." Sarah's breath came in rough gasps, the hold of despair momentarily loosening as she stared at the door. Outside, a wail pierced the air, filled with a familiar timbre. "Help us. We're scared." Unexpectedly, the pressure around her felt lighter, the shadows hesitated, swirling like lost souls searching for direction. She could feel the door's warmth pulsing, a promise of sanctuary. "Make your choice, Sarah," the figure hissed, its voice now dripping with sinister delight. "But remember, there is no turning back. You should know the consequences of your decisions." With an abrupt resolve, she dashed toward the door, driven by the echoes of her children. She placed her hand on the wood, feeling the energy vibrating beneath her fingers. But just as she was about to turn the handle, the shadows surged forward. "Defiance will cost you dearly." They lunged, wrapping around her ankles and thighs, pulling her back into the suffocating darkness. "Mom!" Their voices screamed, a gutting sound that tore through her. The knife fell from her grip, clattering against the floor, lost in the chaos. A whisper sailed through the din, peeling back the veil of despair. "You must open the door or you will lose everything." But as Sarah stared at the door, half representing hope and half embodying despair, she felt the weight of that choice hang dangerously in the balance. In that crucial moment, she hesitated. What if the darkness was right? What if opening the door meant releasing a horror worse than the anguish she felt? As the walls began to close in, one single thought chained her to the ground: was she ready to face the truth behind those haunting whispers? Her heart hammered, racing against time and desperation. With the shadows clawing at her mind and the last remnants of light fading, she wondered, could she truly save her children, or would she unleash a terror that consumed them all? The choice was hers, but as she stood there, the line between love and madness blurred. One thing was clear: the horror was far from over. The darkness roared around Sarah, an insatiable beast thrumming with rage. Shadows writhed like live things, grasping her skin with icy fingers, pulling her away from the door as they whispered promises of oblivion. Every heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out everything but the tortured cries of her children. "Mom! We're so scared." The familiar, haunting voices merged into a haunting symphony, echoing through her mind. They twisted her resolve with every repetition, unraveling her defenses. "What if you're losing them forever?" The figure loomed, its distorted features laced with malice. Breathless, Sarah jerked her head, driving the panic from her mind. "I'll find a way to save you." But the figure laughed softly, the sound sickeningly sweet. "These are not mere shadows, Sarah. This is your end, wrapped in love and despair." The walls pulsed, quivering as if they held their breath. She could sense the presence closing in, but just for a moment, a glimmer of hope flickered within her. The warm glow seeped through the cracks, illuminating her resolve enough to push back against her growing panic. She envisioned her children, Mia's laughter, Ben's playful spirit. "I want to let this happen. I want to let them take you from me." With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah lunged toward the door again, gritting her teeth against the tightening grip of the shadows. As her fingers brushed against the cool wood, a bone-chilling shriek cut through the air, making her freeze. "Stop!" The voice was familiar yet twisted, mangled by torment. It echoed like a chorus of lost souls. "You can't protect them, Sarah. They belong to us now." The floor shuddered, and the knife, once a symbol of defiance, lay useless, taunting her with its glint. She gripped the edge of the door, rattling the frame as she pushed against the waiting darkness. The wood trembled, alive with a palpable energy she hadn't truly acknowledged until now. "Let us in," the children urged, fear laced in their tiny voices. Tears flowed freely down her cheeks as she battled against the anarchy in her mind. "This is wrong," she gasped, fighting against the tide. "You're not my children. You're something else. Mom. It's us." In a moment of sheer desperation, Sarah pressed her ear against the door, straining to hear their cries as they became distorted, merging with the sinister laughter of the figure. The warm memories flickered and faded, and for the first time, Sarah felt a creeping dread wash over her. "What have I done?" The walls pressed closer, and the darkness surged anew, breathing against her. "Open it, Sarah. Unveil the truth. Your children are waiting." She could feel the ground shifting beneath her, the room twisting. Shadows clawed at her mind, feeding on her doubt. The echo of their laughter morphed into shrieks of horror, making her stomach twist. The promise of her children faded into whispers of something sinister, but the door pulsed with energy, her heart thrumming in harmony with its rhythm, calling her to decide. "Is this love?" she murmured, unsure. "Or is this just desperation?" With her heart racing, she took a breath, fighting against the weight of remorse threatening to crash down on her. In that moment of disquiet, a new realization dawned like the chilling bite of winter. Every ounce of darkness in that space mixed with her love, creating a thick fog of uncertainty. "Make your choice," it hissed, voice slicing through her resolve like glass. The room tilted, warping her perception. Doors swung open in her mind, revealing fractured moments from her past: a family breakfast, bedtime stories, the scent of Mia's hair. The glow shifted, flickering like remnants of a fading light, dimming with urgency, but the shadows curled around her ankles again, cold and relentless. "Time is running out, Sarah." A panic ignited her resolve once more. She was torn between what she believed to be possible and what truly was. Was there a way to save her children without succumbing to the darkness that craved her? Her heart pounded with relentless urgency, and the choice before her deepened like a Would she dare to open that door and face whatever lay beyond? Or would she choose to fight against the darkness one last time, even if it meant losing everything? With the walls vibrating around her, Sarah stood frozen, adrenaline laced with the bitter taste of fear. She realized that the real nightmare had only just begun. Sarah felt suffocated by the shadows that still churned around her. The air became a stagnant pool, thick with their malevolence. Intense whispers, undercurrents of twisted love and dread, clawed at her sanity. "Mom, please." Mia's voice tore through the darkness, a fragment of light in an ocean of black, yet it felt tainted, murky with despair. Sarah steadied herself against the door, memories of laughter battering against her mind like rain against a windowpane, relentless in their pursuit. In that chilling moment, she wrestled not just with shadows but with despair, the kind that festered in the heart of a mother who would do anything to protect her children. "I won't let you take them." The conviction flooded her veins, igniting a fire beneath her fear. But the shackles of doubt were heavy. "Open the door, Sarah. You'll save them," the figure taunted, its voice curling around her resolve. "You think you can hold on to their memories forever? They are lost. Save yourself." And as she pressed against the smooth surface of the door, her heart thundering, within her surged the urgent desire to find out the truth. If this isn't them, then what have you done? What price had I paid already? With those haunting questions hanging in the air, her determination rippled into something fierce. She stepped back, her breath catching. She needed to confront the darkness not just behind the door but within her own heart. "Stop!" she shouted into the shadows, her own voice echoing in the solid silence that followed. "If you're not my children, then I choose to fight." The response was immediate. The air thickened, the shadows writhing violently as if wounded. "Foolish girl," the figure hissed, its form rippling. "You hold no power here. You cannot bring them back." "Maybe not," she blurted, "but I can protect their legacy." She charged toward the door, her fingers gripping the handle as adrenaline coursed through her. "You can't take my love from me. I will not let go." With a deep breath, she hurled the door open, stumbling into the night that threatened to swallow her whole. The darkness roared, an entity of chaos stretching into the abyss. But from that chaos came shapes that twisted and turned, forming grotesque figures that resembled lost children but lacked the vibrancy of life. "Sarah," their voices echoed, overlapping and filling the air like a stream of icy water. "Help us. We need you." "No!" she gasped. Horror ripped through her as she pressed against the doorframe. A mantra began to populate the quiet corners of her mind. "Not today, not like this." Then she saw them both, Jake and Mia, caught in the web of darkness but flickering with the remnants of love she carried within. The scene poured both warmth and agony into her chest. "Mom!" they chorused, their voices mingling with the shadows. "Please, don't leave us." Tears streamed as Sarah felt the echoes of her heartbeat synchronize with theirs. "You are my children," she cried out, defiance igniting in her core. "And I will save you, even from this." In that definable moment, she clung tighter to her memories, each laugh, every smile, the flicker of joy that came with each loving glance. The knife lay abandoned at her feet, but she didn't need it. Love was her weapon, the shield that would grant her the strength to fight against the consuming void that had taken form around them. The darkness recoiled then surged as she charged forward, leading with her love, and she felt the boundaries break that once caved to despair. "I won't let you take who they were," she shouted, her voice strong against the thick shadows. With every earnest thought and heartfelt desire, she pushed against the horrifying forms before her. The very essence of love and her memories became her armor, her guiding light piercing through the malevolence. "Mom! We're here. Help us!" they cried, twisting in a strange dance between fear and hope. The shadows began to separate, revealing glimpses of Jake and Mia that emanated warmth, despite the chilling border they inhabited. "Let them go," she cried, breathing deeply, knowing she had to pierce to the core of the darkness that clung to her children. A deafening howl erupted from the creature before her, claws scraping against the edges of her resolve, but the more she pushed, the more the shadows twisted and shrank. "You think love will save you?" It jeered, but Sarah was undeterred. "I know it will," she roared as she took another step, feeling the darkness dissipate around her. She grasped onto the silhouettes of Jake and Mia, their forms becoming clearer as she surged forward with her desperate love. "You're not lost. You're right here with me." Then, with an explosive cry, a sound of resurrection, the shadows broke and fled, swirling away into the night. A gust of wind tore through, followed by a hush, as light flooded back into the yard, washing away the dark stain that had held sway. As Sarah released the breath she had been holding for so long, she felt warmth envelop her. Jake and Mia blinked at her, their familiar smiles breaking through the remnants of the dark curse that had clung to them. "Mom?" Jake asked softly, eyes wide and innocent. "Just hold on," she urged, wrapping them both in her arms. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "You are safe now. We are together." The darkness may have retreated, but its echoes lingered like a chilling reminder of the lengths to which she would go. And as the first light of dawn crept over Maplewood, Sarah knew there would always be shadows, but as long as love held strong, she would stand against them, brave and unyielding. "Let us go home," she breathed, leading her children away from the dark, toward the light of a new day, and just like that she stepped into a world where love conquered the darkness, sending ripples of hope cascading far beyond the remnants of horror they'd left behind. Now, as we conclude this chilling journey, don't forget to fully support the channel. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who must see this conclusion, and remember to smash that like button to help fuel the algorithm. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this ending. You know you want to. Let us keep the conversation going.